I want to tell you, I start just by telling you such a beautiful thing happened this week. A few weeks ago, I was asked to speak for a Latin group that was coming from Panama, about 30 women in Crown Heights. And it was many weeks ago, I put on the calendar and that was that. And they gave me a specific subject, what they wanted me to say. And I said, okay, perfect. I put it on the calendar. I didn't think about it, right? Life is busy. And then I'm going there on Monday. It was Monday at 4:30 p.m. And I leave New York, Manhattan extra early because I know, right? You never know. And I'm like, okay, an hour and a half in advance for sure. I'm going to make it. And then as I'm approaching the Brooklyn Bridge, I realize that there's an accident or something and it looks, everything's red, everything stops. So I get off through Williamsburg. What a nightmare. I didn't realize I was going into the time that the kids are dismissed. And in every single block, there is a bus stopped sign waiting. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, Hashem, you gave me this mission. I'm trying to do it, but like, what am I going to do? So I see a city bike. I'm like, I could pull over, leave the car here and just bike. I don't have a helmet. I'm dressed up. I'm going to be, no, it doesn't make sense. Just keep going. I go with the skirt because I have leggings. So it's not a problem. So I go and I decide to drive. I drive and the whole time I'm saying, Hashem, this is, I want to do this, but like the way it looks, I'm going to get there by the time it's finished. Like, and it's just getting late and late. And at one point I said, you know what, Hashem, I'm in your hands, whatever you want. That's it. I'm just going to not look at the time and I'm just going to drive. I'm going to tell the lady that there's all these buses. And she says, don't worry. So as I'm going there, I'm praying, Hashem, please, if anybody has been in 770, there's no parking. I say, Hashem, not only this, but now I need to park this car. I have a big car. I need a spot in front of the shul. And I'm having this dialogue with Hashem. And I arrived to Eastern Parkway and through all the little streets. And as I'm approaching the street where I want to park, it's blocked. With the police department, it's blocked. The whole thing is blocked. I don't know what's going on. So my Latin tendency, obviously, I inch up to the officer and I say, officer, good afternoon. Do you think it's possible for me to like park on the street? And I'm like, no chutzpah, right? Like, can I just like, can you open the street for me? And he's like, huh? I said, I'm supposed to be speaking and being in the synagogue, and I need to, I don't have time. So he's like, okay, fine. He pulls the car over. I parked right in front of 770. I had never spoken before in 770, so it was a big deal for me. And as I entered this class with like 30 plus women, I text the lady before I come into the room because there were other speakers before me, others after. So I text the main lady and I said the repetition and I said, listen, I'm outside the door. I don't want to interrupt. I hear somebody's talking. So she says, come right in. I walk in. The lady says, thank you for being late 8 minutes. Because if you came on time, she wouldn't be able to finish the whole punchline. So everything was calculated. And then I come in and I see all these faces, 98% South American Latin women, Colombia, Venezuela. And then I look at this lady and I keep looking at this lady. I'm like, I know this woman from somewhere, but like, how would I know her, right? And then somebody says, this is Mrs. So-and-so. And I look at her and I said, oh my God, you know my mom. And she says, who is your mom? So I tell her who my parents are. And she's like, of course I know. I used to go to the same Torah class 30 to 45 years ago in South America. So I said, that's like I haven't seen somebody so close to my family. I am in the week between my father's passing and my mother's passing. And it was just a very incredible experience being with these women and speaking Spanish and just like sharing so many things. And by the end, I finished the class. There were 2 girls. One came straight to cry on my shoulder. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And she says, you don't understand. Every point that you was hitting on your thing, it was something that was unlocking something that I have been resisting to inside. And in the midst of my speech, imagine 30 Latin women that you can't speak. So in the back, there were some girls like talking and like giggling. And God, it's hard to give a class when people are giggling. I said, okay, fine. I said, okay, girls, I'm just going through it, like I'm going on. And in the end of the class, that girl came to the front and she says, I need to tell you why we were giggling. I said, sure. She said, because my friends were telling me that they always think that I am like different. Why? Because I'm always seeing Hashem in hidden places. And they're like, come on. Hashem doesn't talk to you when you need a parking spot. He doesn't like they're like we're kissing here. But here, because I'm doing as a public speaker, I'm telling like my life story and stuff. She's like, we are connected at the soul. And we were like, they were laughing because every time you say a story, it was like, this is not possible. This is like this girl's life. And then she kept saying across the room, you have to write a book. You have to write a book. You have to write these stories. So by the end of the class, she came to the front and I said, well, you also have a bunch of stories and we're going to blend it and write the book together. So it's just like, I'm just amazed about how Hashem, you're trying your best on planet Earth. And a lot of times we're so stressed out. We have all this, right now, the world seems to be going crazy, especially the last few days with everything that's happening. You know, the level of the protest, the level where it's going, the people that are getting hurt and nobody's publicizing that. The fact that politically our city is not standing up. I mean, there should have been a complete shutdown of the city after what I saw for 3 seconds on the internet. And I saw a post and I was going to write. And I wrote something and I was going to post. But I said, you know what? It shouldn't be really politically. In somebody's story, I was going to, like, you can't be a bystander and just watch. You have to be an active voice. And, you know, it's very hard sometimes for me to, like, in the end of the day, I am a rebbetzim. I lead people spiritually. On the other hand, I'm a Jew. And this is not okay. So I took it. I didn't post it. But I immediately, I know somebody in the city of New York, in the government high up. It was like not even 7 in the morning. I said, I need to speak to you. It's urgent. Please call me. He called me within the hour and he said, what's up? I said, you need to shake heaven. This is not, if you normalize harassment, it's the end of it. It's not only the end for Jews, it's the end of it, period, for New York. And I said, if you need to get a coalition of people, women's, rebels, and whoever you need to come down to City Hall and protest and do whatever, call me. And I just want all of us to bring the awareness because I'm getting to Bamidbar in 2 minutes, but for us to know that we are not living normal times. And I know we have been working and saying this since prior to October 7 and even more emphasized after October 7, but I do think that it's really important for women to learn self-defense. I think it's very important to be vocal. I think you can't be afraid. What's going to happen to us is going to happen to us no matter what. I think we need to become really vocal about the state that they are normalizing saying killing Jews as if it was nothing. And it's not on, you know, the Bronx. It's literally they infiltrating into Jewish communities and it's a lot. So having said that, you know that our most powerful tool, it is not your Instagram story. Your most powerful tool is your prayer. We need to increase Tehillim. Any moment that you have a second, you're waiting for the bus, your appointment is late, you're in a red traffic light, just say Tehillim. I mean, you should try to be saying already the ones for the month, meaning the Tehillim is divided for the days of the month, so try to do that. But even if you finish that, you stop somewhere, pull up a Tehillim and saying. And the second thing is that your guidance is your Torah. Learn the Torah. Learn the Torah, learn the Torah. I can't tell you enough how it's like life-saving. Like I take one more minute to say something so beautiful that my husband said, and I hope I could do justice. On Thursday night we had was it a Shiva call? I don't remember. We had a Sefer Torah dedication. And when we came back into the building, Mark Hassan was giving a class. I don't exactly know what the subject was. Were you in the class on Thursday? They were speaking about something, and my husband said, "Oh, can I?" Because he just passed by to do something. So he said, "Oh, can I just say a quick thing?" And Mark Hassan said, "Yeah, of course." And he said that why in a city do we have the Big Ben? In London, you have the Big Ben. And he was speaking about the Torah, that is, we raise the Torah, right? You always raise the Torah. And the cloud of glory was rising and the staff of Moshe rising. So all these kind of same things about raising. And then he went into a story of like the Big Ben. The Big Ben, you have a huge clock in the middle of London. Like, what for? Why? Everybody has a watch. Everybody has a phone. Like, when you don't really need it. The reason is because you're supposed to check if you are in the right place, if you're in the right time. Right. It's supposed to be a guidance. You're not supposed to take the Torah, the clock, and bring it, change the time on the clock based on yours. You're supposed to kind of, it's like a guidance in life. Check, am I right? I'm still in the right track. And he was saying same thing is with the Torah, that the Torah, we're not supposed to bring the Torah to us, meaning make the Torah fit our lives. We're supposed to make ourselves fit the Torah life. It's the reverse engineered. And it was funny because it was a second, like he wasn't even prepared, it was not even prepared. It was just a Torah thought that he came. And I'm like, Rafael, you're brilliant. Like, right? A lot of times I think that we are testing in ways that sometimes you're like, where do I find the answer? And the answer is given to us. Even before Hashem created this world, he already drafted the Torah. He already did the instruction manual. He already gave us the answers to all the problems. So I want to dedicate this class to two different things. The first thing I would like to dedicate this class is to Sarah's mom, Yocheved Bat Raisel, correct? Aliyah Leshama, who just passed away about a week ago. And the second that I would like to dedicate this class is obviously not only for our Chayalim, but really for every Jew worldwide, to strengthen us and to Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem should protect us. And B'ezrat Hashem, we are in the darkest of moments, it's just a summary that will come. So today we're going to be learning about Parshat Bamidbar. And it's such an incredible, we're starting a new book. So if you missed out all the other 3 books of the Torah, you're welcome to start Bamidbar this week. It's a shorter Parsha. If you like to listen to Rabbi Gordon, who's fantastic, it's shorter times. So let me know. We could always post a salute on the group. And let's start learning about what is this whole Parsha about. So the title that I gave to this Parsha is Why Does Judaism Begin in the Desert? Right? Out of all places, the Jewish people came out of Egypt. We're wandering in the desert. We received the Torah in the desert. What's the story with this desert? So there's something unusual about the beginning of the Bamidbar because the Torah is preparing the Jewish people to enter the land, build homes, create society, and raise families, and to bring holiness into physical life. Yet this journey entirely begins specifically in the desert. And it's funny, like, what is the desert, right? I just went to Morocco. I went to the desert. There's nothing there, right? Besides piles and piles of sand and a lot of heat. Not even a plant, like nada, right? So cactus. I didn't see any cactus. Sometimes you do. Okay, so a desert is a place of instability, discomfort, unpredictability, and it has no natural structure, no visible source of life, and no sense of permanence. And yet the Torah intentionally begins the Jewish journey there because before a person can build holiness into the world, the person first needs to discover who you are. You first needs to go inside in order to be able to be a part of something much greater. So it's interesting because the progression of the Torah comes in the following way, and it's actually deliberate. Bereshit speaks about what? Where we come from, creation of the world. Shemot speaks about teaching us how the Jewish people were born as a nation, who we are. Vayikra, which we just finished, is teaching us about how to live with holiness and closeness to Hashem. If you remember all the last Parashiyot, we have been speaking about Tumah and Tahara, about the Kohanim, the service on the temple, etc. And we discovered through that journey that it's not about the temple only. It's about us as Kohanim in this world, working in the temple, this world, this place that's called planet Earth. So how we remain connected to Hashem when life has no longer feels spiritually protected. And that's what Bamidbar is going to come to teach us. That's what we're going to understand and learn through this new Sefer. How to remain connected to Hashem when we don't feel spiritual connected. And it's interesting because as a woman, more than men, we have this, we swing more. We sway more back and forth, right? Sometimes you feel completely static about something, and 5 minutes later, you're like, oh, forget it, right? So how do we remain we always need to go up and down, but how do we go not like this, but how do we remain more in the middle ground? So Jewish people are now living Har Sinai, they're living open revelation and living the intense spiritual environment surrounded by the mountain. And it's interesting because the Rebbe describes this transition as when you live like he calls it ivory tower yeshiva, right? You're living in a yeshiva, and now you go into actually real life. That's what Har Sinai and the descent from Har Sinai was. You got a height, and now you're going through the desert trying to get home. Now the question is, why is Bamidbar no longer had to experience holiness at Sinai, but it's actually whether holiness can survive in the desert? Can you remain connected, spiritual, excited, alive in the midst of the worst anti-Semitism we have seen in the last 80 years, right? Can we remain still happy? Can we remain connected? Can we not go to be in despair, right? And say, well, what it's going to be? I'm moving out of New York. The reality is that it doesn't matter where you move. Doesn't matter where we move. The reality is that they know where we are. It's funny, I was speaking to my children yesterday, speaking to my kids, and I was telling them on Sunday, and I was telling them that I really want to do a real trip of Morocco. What I mean by a real trip of Morocco, I mean, when we went, and I shared with a few of you, when we went just now to Meknes, we really went into the old Meknes, the old market. I mean, places that they're not even photographed because no one is going there. And I was mesmerized. I was like, there's so much richness that I want to just see and be able to go and, walk the streets where my husband's family walk. I want my kids to go. But this year we were surprised. We had they sent guards to be with us through all the different places. So I was telling my kids, like, oh, I want to go on this trip, but I want to have the police with me. So I'm like, nah, there were parts I really didn't feel comfortable being. And one of my kids who just traveled Morocco, we all her friends, they went on the train, they went everywhere. She's like, Ma, it doesn't matter. Whatever you are is fine. Like, you don't need the police. So I said, yeah, if we go as the girls, it's one story. But if we're going with my husband, right, and Avram, you can't miss it. And then my daughter looks at me and she says, Ma, they can't miss you either. Cute. It's just see, you live and you grow and Baruch Hashem. Okay, so the desert in Torah is not only geographical. We're not talking about the Sahara. We are not talking about the boundary between Egypt and Israel. We are talking about something much deeper than that. And as you know, every single word in the Torah has a deeper meaning. It's not only what is written physically, what happened, but it's how we apply to our lives. So this represents your emotional and spiritual experience that each of us eventually encounters. We all have moments of a desert where we feel our whole life is being uprooted to a place that we just don't even know where to go from here. So there are moments where a person feels very spiritually dry, emotionally exhausted, disconnected, confused, and overwhelmed. And in these moments where clarity disappears and life no longer feels inspiring, Bamidbar comes to teach us something really important. It comes to teach us that Judaism was never meant to exist only inside elevated moments. But Judaism is actually, the goal was never to escape the world and to go to some holy mountain and stay there. The whole point of Judaism is to transform the world because of that experience. That's what Bamidbar is telling us. It's coming to a place where there's nothing, get what you need to get, and now go into a land of Israel, into your life, into your family, and make a change. That's what it's saying. So it's exactly why the opening of this Parshat Bamidbar is not only spiritual symbolism, but it's also the organization of the entire nation. How do we know that? Because speaking about the tribes, each tribe had a place, had a flag, had a deleg, right? Demarcation, their land, specific. Every family received a direction where they belong, and the entire camp is structured around the Mishkan at the center of the place of the divine presence. If you know, the Mishkan was in the middle, and we were in all the different sides. Meaning that we were surrounding, the Mishkan was surrounded by entire nation. And why? Why we had to go around it? Why was it Think about it. A leader needs to go on the head, right? For example, I don't compare, but when I take my 20 students to go to a museum, I'm not in the middle of all my students. I'm in the front of my students, right? They need to follow me. Here, the Mishkan is exactly in the middle of the camp, right? So the reason is because the whole nation needs to learn how to organize life around holiness. Holiness cannot be far away from you. Holiness is right in front of you. The question is, are we taking it, yes or no? And that is the reason why even the way that they were camping has a life lesson for us forever. That holiness needs to be in the center of our lives. You need to bring holiness into every aspect of our lives. So this is very significant because Judaism does not believe that holiness belongs only inside a synagogue or yeshiva or moments of inspiration, but the Mishkan stood in the center of real life. What does that mean? They were traveling, they were packing, they were unpacking. Mishkan, holiness, has to be in the center of leadership, right? Look at what's happening to the city. As long as we don't have somebody who is connected to the real deal of life, the camp is not working too well, right? Think about what's happening. There's something incredible that is happening this week. That Trump asked to keep Shabbat. We're going to keep Shabbat, okay? Where in the history of the world is the president of the United States saying, Yalla, let's keep Shabbat? So this is another, when I saw it, I was like, this is what it means living with God at the center. I mean, think about the miracle times that we're living. This is not normal times. So just a side note on that, it is very important for us, because I'm sure we all keep Shabbat, to keep Shabbat one step higher this Shabbat. Because when Hashem brings something forward is for you to make a change. So the fact that here Trump woke up saying, right, Shabbat, take a minute to learn the halachot of Shabbat until we get to Shabbat. Or say, I'm going to light Shabbat 5 minutes before the Zman of the 80 minutes. Not the 80 minutes, but before the 80 minutes, right? Or I'm going to dress more better. Or I'm going to shut off my phone for Shabbat. Whatever that, I just said many different ideas. Whichever one clicked, that's probably the one you need to be doing. Doesn't need to be 100% Shomer Shabbat. If you could do it, yalla, let's do it. But do one step that's going to bring you closer to Shomer Shabbat. Because everything is this idea of awareness that Hashem is bringing this holiness that needs to transform every part of our lives. So why did the Mishkan stood in the center of real life? So we see it was travel, because we were moving from one place to the other. It was about leadership. We just spoke about it. It was about family structure. You need to see in your life, where can you bring in Torah? And I want to tell you that it's very funny how life makes you change. I was never the type of person who's learning Torah all the time. I didn't grow up with it. I'm very active. I like to go and move around and do mitzvot and da. And since my mother's passing, in Mercy Hashem, this coming week, so let's do it also, Leilu Nishmat Simcha Bat Avraham, I took a minute and I said, that's it. I need to stop everything. I want to start learning for myself. I want to do a year of learning for my mom. And because I chose to do a year of learning for my mom, I have my chavruta for that amount of years, because I had to learn with a learning partner. And because I started with one chavruta, now I have 5 chavrutas. And the whole time I'm looking for opportunities to learn Torah. And I never thought what it means, right? Like I'm just moving in thinking it's my own world, right? I discovered recently that my kids have they started learning partners in Brooklyn with their friends. And I just didn't realize they were doing learning every single week. And I think that when my kids wake up in the morning and I'm sitting and I'm like, 10 minutes I'm learning with my chavruta, and I'm speaking out loud about bitachon or whatever I'm learning, there is a ripple effect. So whether it's in your home, with your family, call a friend, find a partner, someone that you can learn once a week. And don't do it 3 hours, 5 minutes. Put 5 minutes, get 5 minutes done, then we do 10 minutes. But make it happen, because everything that happened is supposed to bring this world to the ultimate light. And we are the partners. So the idea of responsibility, conflict, The Mishkan has come to teach us also. We bring Torah in the moment that we have a conflict with another human being. How do we correct that situation al pi Torah? How do I consult a Rav? How do I look in the Torah how do I fix that problem? In movement, in national existence. So Bamidbar teaches us that holiness must become the center around which life is built. Not something separate from itself, but it's actually life itself. So from here, we move into something beautiful that we see that most people, we divide our life into categories, right? This is my spiritual life and this is my physical life. Here I'm learning and I want to do this. Here I could do whatever I want. I'm just a person, I'm doing my life. But the Torah never makes that separation. Judaism asks from us, is my home, how could I make my home holy? How could I make my conversations holy? If somebody's saying Lashon Hara, can I just say, oh guys, sorry, I can't, right? It happens all the time. It happened in class actually last week when one of the students said, oh no, because Mrs. So-and-so. And I'm like, oh, no. And they were all laughing. I'm like, you're hurting my ears. I can't hear this. I don't want to. I want nothing to do with this, right? Even in conversations could be, is your schedule holy? Are you putting enough time to learn Torah in your day? Are you taking the first half hour in your day to pray to Hashem and say, thank you, Hashem? Are you actually sitting in your bed and say, thank you, Hashem, Modeh, thank you for my neshama? Or are you Instagram story, right? What am I doing? It's funny because I had an alarm clock, like loud, nice alarm clock, and it broke down finally. And so obviously I went to my phone and I just 2 days ago, I was like, that phone got to stay out of my room. I have to go back to my clock. I have to buy a clock. So now I'm looking for like something that has all the characters. It can't be too loud because then I'm moody, right? It has to be like the right fit, right? But am I making my schedule holy? Yes or no? Can I bring Hashem into my marriage, into my stress level? Can I know when I'm really, really stressed out that I'm ready to jump on that bike and bike the whole Brooklyn? Can I be calm enough and know that Hashem has my back? Can I know that? Can I really trust the process and the place where Hashem is putting you? Because there's no wrong turn in life. Every wrong turn is for the right reason. Every time that Hashem makes you go right or left or be stuck behind that bus for 20 minutes, there is a purpose. And I want to tell you that on my way to Brooklyn, I went through streets I had never gone in my life. I saw plenty churches. Stuck in front of a church, I kept saying Pesukim of Torah to elevate the place where Hashem brought me. So are you utilizing that detour to the service of Hashem, yes or no? And like this, every place could become a place where Hashem is revealed. So the purpose of Torah was never to remain on the mountain, but the purpose of the Torah is to enter reality and transform it. And once the Torah is established and holiness must enter ordinary life, there's another shift. The Jewish people are no longer standing passively at Sinai's revelation. We're not just standing there waiting, receiving. Now they're being organized into an army. Now, what does an army represent? A mission, when you accomplish a goal. Movement, your action. An army is not just sitting home or, sitting by the beach. Responsibility. When I go into a fight, it's not about me. I'm going because there's a whole platoon that depends if I shoot right or not. So Hashem is essentially telling the Jewish people to take everything they receive at Sinai and carry it into reality. And although we're going to have challenges, many different challenges throughout life, many people think that holiness only is going to be in these elevated moments. Judaism was never meant to stay protected in the mountain. It's supposed to be carried into Sinai and mainly into the desert. In that place where you feel is devoid of nothing, that struggle you're having, that your desert, you feel you're like, that's where you're supposed to bring Torah. Because holiness could survive everything, stress, disappointment, exhaustion, modern life. And the purpose of the Torah is not to create detached spiritual people. We're not supposed to be spiritualized beings, right? And we spoke about that in the first class I ever gave 35 years ago, that we're not supposed to be Hashem. And I always bring it to that point because if you have that point at the front, your whole life is different. Hashem didn't want us in Gan Eden, just being spiritualized and enjoying life. He wanted us to actually go out there and conquer our desert. So people need to reveal Hashem specifically inside your reality. So the Torah begins building this nation. And the question is, how does Judaism view individual inside something so large and collectively? So it's interesting because when you look about Bamidbar in the beginning, it seems very repetitive, right? Speaking about names and numbers and families and tribes and whatnot. But the Torah is not telling you something technical. It's revealing something really profound about our identity. And the Rebbe explains something really beautiful about the census that my husband one time said, and always stay with me when we do the Machatzit Shekel. He mentioned it once, and it really stayed in my head, that the census creates two opposite truths simultaneously. In one hand, every Jew counts equally, right? If you think about Machatzit Shekel, we don't give, if you're a millionaire, you're not giving $1 billion, and if you are poor, you give a quarter. We're all giving exactly the same thing. It means that we are all count equally. I don't care your health, I don't care your social status, I don't care if you're retired, if you just started your life, if you were just born, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. If you are breathing, you are worth the same as any other Jew on planet Earth. Every person is counted as one. But at the same time, every tribe is also counted separately because every person possesses a unique mission that no one else can fulfill but you. It's a mission. We all have a place where we need to get to. And without you and your input, the mission cannot be accomplished. You have to see yourself as that one soldier who's holding the whole platoon. That's you. You just don't realize because you're sitting here, or you're sitting there, or you're back in the tank. That's the place where Hashem put you. But the whole platoon depends on you. The whole world depends on you. So the Torah does not ask people to erase themselves, right? It's not about, I'm no one. You are someone in order to belong, nor does the glorify individuality disconnected from responsibility, but actually they both exist. A person is completely unique, who you are, the makeup of who you are, right? We all have a different thumbprint, but also simultaneously you belong to something much greater than yourself. So it's not about thinking about me, it's about me making it into a we. And if you think, I heard something really beautiful. Me is me. We is when you take the M and you flip it over, that's we. It's making the me as a service for the we. So this idea becomes even clearer through the structure of the tribes themselves. Now, let's see, each tribe, what did they have? They had an identity, they had a flag, they had a color, they had a, right? They had all these different things. They had a spiritual role. So let's just see some of them. First one, Yehuda. What was Yehuda? The leader. Who was Issachar? Represented the Torah. Who was Zebulun? He was the one who was worldly engagements, right? We always say Issachar and Zebulun, right? One was praying and the other one was producing the money. So to support the one who was praying. Now, who was Levi? Levi was represents spiritual service to Hashem. And it's interesting because you need all of them as an expression that surrounded this Mishkan. Meaning that unity does not mean sameness. We don't need everybody the same. And I have said it in different ways. You don't need a society full of doctors. You also need lawyers. So if the doctor mess up, you could figure out, right, who, and you need a judge who's gonna, right? It needs to be diverse. That's a real functional society, right? So unity does not mean sameness. We don't want everybody the same. Holiness is created when different souls move around one center while remaining true to the unique role and identity while they're doing their mission. It means that I need to know who I am, and I need to know what I could bring that is different than anybody else on planet Earth in order to unite with you, who you have your own unique thing, in order to fulfill the purpose, as long as we're both connected to that center, which is the Torah. So the Torah teaches that that holiness is created when different people learn how to build together without erasing themselves. It's about how could I be a tool in Hashem's creation of this world. Now, another powerful idea that is hidden inside the census is that people count what matters to them, right? And there's that famous story that I said in the past, that there was someone who was in the line of the Rebbe for hours on end, And the Rebbe had been giving dollars for like, I don't know, 10 hours, 12 hours, and he was fasting. The Rebbe used to fast when he used to give dollars. And the person was like kind of annoyed. It was a long time. And the Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe, like, Rebbe, with all the respect, like, aren't you tired? I mean, you're fasting, you're here listening to everybody's problem. Like, what's the story? And the Rebbe said, when I'm counting diamonds, you don't get tired. If I gave each of you right now a bag of diamonds, are you going to say, no, I don't have time, I'm tired, I need to go to Costco? No. You're going to see that count 1 minute, right? That's what the soul of the person is. So the fact that Hashem repeatedly counts the Jewish people reveals something essential about human value, that every soul matters, not symbolically, but genuinely. And if you think about it, think about the first paycheck you ever got, right? Let's say you babysat and they gave you, in those days, they gave us $5, right? You were counting and excited and recounting, right? My husband counts all his safari, right? You count what is dear to you. So think when Hashem is recounting us, meaning that your soul is the most precious thing he has, right? So every soul matters, not symbolically, but genuinely. And modern society is teaching us that people derive value from success, productivity, influence, how many likes, appearances, and accomplishments. And it's very easy to fall on that trend. And I'm going to tell you how I know that. Because I posted a video about my dad for his yortzeit. And it was really, I didn't post it for likes or for this. I posted because I wanted Salud to teach Torah. I wanted to do something in his memory that people should be doing, an act of kindness or a mitzvah in his memory to perpetuate his legacy. And I have all these wonderful pictures of growing up. So I posted this and I posted it and I was just so excited I posted it. And then somebody calls me. She's like, oh, I see you becoming an influencer. I'm like, not really, but I just wanted to. And she's like, whoa, you have almost 100 likes and like 2,000 views. I'm like, oh, really? It's very easy to fall in the trap. It's not about how many people looked at it or if I became popular from it. No. The question for me is, out of these 2,000, how many are doing a mitzvah? That's the question. Was the tool that Hashem gave me utilized to bring Hashem on planet Earth, yes or no? That's the whole point. So we need to be very aware of our surroundings and understand that in the midst of everything you're doing, there is Hashem. So Bamidbar teaches us that a Jew has value before accomplishment. It doesn't matter if you were sitting the whole day in your bed today. You're breathing, Hashem has a plan for you. It means that the world cannot exist if you're not alive. Cannot exist. And the moment that a person passes on, now that we're speaking about our mothers, is the person fulfill. They withheld this world to the last second and they fulfill the purpose for this world. For them, what they could have accomplished out of this world. So a soul has worth because it's divine, not because it succeeds or achieves anything or because it looks very impressive. This is the reason why the Torah counts the Jewish people before they enter the desert, because before the person enters the battle and difficulties of life, the person must first know that they matter. I can't make my life worthwhile if I don't think I matter anything, right? If I'm not valuable, if I don't bring anything, why would I care? So that's the reason why they're going first to the desert. Now, this leads us into something even deeper. Hasidut explains that the desert represents a spiritual thirst. A desert strips away distractions, right? If you have been in the desert, there's nothing. You could really get bored very fast, right? And there's a lot of external, there's no external comfort. So sometimes Hashem allows a person to enter a seasonal, personal desert. When you're feeling gloomy, when things are tough, when I look at the news and I'm like, where do I run? Right? Specifically so you could rediscover what is truly sustaining them. What is sustaining you? When you're in that midst of me driving to Brooklyn, not knowing how if I jump on the bike or not, it was a moment for me to realize that it wasn't the bike and it wasn't the bus. That's where I needed to be at that time. And then I started looking around. What can I do? Where can I elevate? I could listen to a Torah class. I could call a friend who I know is in need. I could say a pasuk of Torah if I'm next to, right? And it's interesting because I always wonder how we lived before cell phones. Because I could only return calls when I'm driving. Hey, Siri, call. And I'm never I'm never not doing something, right? I don't know how healthy that is, but right? It's giving you the opportunity to accomplish and to bring light to more places. So there are moments in our lives where prayer feels dry, life feels repetitive, identity feels unclear, and a person feels spiritual tired. And I could tell you, many days I feel like, Hashem, what do you want from me? But Bamidbar teaches us that the desert are not necessarily punishment. When you're struggling, it's not a punishment. These deserts are where identity becomes real, because when external comfort disappears, the soul finally becomes audible. When you take away all the outside, that's when you really see who it is. And it's funny because now, as my kids are growing out of my home, and there is something called empty nester syndrome, yeah, my life has shifted. I still have kids who come and go, but I'm not every day making breakfast and driving kids to school. And in the midst of this growing up, I finally becoming an adult, I question, who am I? Am I the person who drives the kids? Am I the driver? Am I the psychology? Am I the chef? Am I Instacart, right? Because I do the shopping. Who am I? What is my value? And it's interesting because it happens to all of us, whether you have kids or you don't have kids. You have years when you're working and you're going to school and then Hashem makes this wonderful thing where he makes you slow down, whether it's physically, spiritually, emotionally, doesn't matter. And then the question is, does my life have value? Can I be 180 years old and have value if I'm sitting in my house? And the answer is yes. You have a value and you have a mission that nobody else could come and bring into this world. So we move on to, why is the Torah itself was given in the desert? Why was not the Torah given in like some, Mount Everest? Why wasn't it like in the top place? A desert belongs to no one. It's open, it's empty, and it's unclean. So the Torah can only fully enter a person who is willing to become spiritually open and has the ability to have bitul. Bitul means self-nullification. You can't fill a cup that is full, right? If this is full to the top, can I ask you, give me more water? No, it needs to be half empty at least. So the Torah could only be received in a place of emptiness. It means that now, all of us, as we prepare for Shavuot just in a week time, you need to empty yourself of you, of what I believe the Torah is, what I believe Hashem wants of me, and say, hey Hashem, what do you want from me? Give an empty vessel. It's not so simple. We have been working 40 nights of the Omer trying to become empty, right? You still got upset yesterday? Not so empty, right? I'm not saying you should get upset, but look inside. So as the Mishkan becomes the center of the camp, the Torah introduces another essential idea. The holiness survives only when it's protected intentionally. So we see from here that the Levites surrounded the Mishkan, creating layers of closeness and protection for this holy place. We also know that the Levites were the ones, with the whole story with the golden calf, that they remained loyal to Hashem. They did not partake. In the moment that there was national confusion and a spiritual failure, which seems to be pretty much what we are doing, what the state of the world is, they remain true to, there is only Hashem. There's only Hashem, there's only Hashem. It doesn't matter. The world has gone mad. Great, there's only Hashem. And it's understanding that vision that there is only Hashem. So this teaches us that holiness is not built only through perfection, but is built through loyalty that remains connected even after failure, confusion, inconsistency, and struggle. Even in the moments where I feel, my God, I can't go on, I just don't know. Even then, I have to remind myself, Hashem has a plan. He has a plan. The question is, am I following the plan? I know today's Parsha is a little bit more deep, but it's so beautiful. Every part of it is like chocolate. I can't tell you. Now you know what I love, huh? Okay, so now this becomes deeply relevant in our modern daily lives, because Judaism is teaching us to be open, but to also to have boundaries, right? We need to be open to what Hashem is saying to me, but I also need to have right? Boundary, and this we learn from the Levim. Not everything sacred can survive in constant exposure. We cannot survive. And this I could tell you in Tzniut. I was speaking to somebody who came to my house for Shabbat, and he said, I can't go to Central Park. And I looked at him and said, it's the most beautiful place in the city. He said, no. Central Park, you see everything. You can run in Central Park. I have to run through the streets of New York. People are better dressed than what you see in the running track in Central Park. I can't. Sensitivity. Our level of sensitivity to Kedusha has decreased because the more something is exposed, not our attention, the more you're exposed to something, the more it becomes normalized. So we need to understand our soul, you could become normalized, but your soul is still shaking. I can't handle this. I can't handle this lack of tzniut. I can't handle this lashon hara. I can't handle your neshama is a pure part of Hashem, and it's very, very delicate. So it needs to be protected. And from here, so not everything sacred could survive in constant exposure, but Bamidbar is teaching us that something is sacred must be protected intentionally, and that's your relationship with Hashem. There's just a couple more points. There is interesting that the expression that the entire parsha begins with is the Torah does not simply say count the people. It instead says zeurot et harosh, raise their heads. Well, sorry, when we're speaking about the census, not how it begins, but when we speak about the census, it says zeurot et rosh, raise their heads. And the Rebbe explains that the census was not merely counting 1, 2, 3, but it was zeurot rosh means elevate the person. When you go and you interact with another human being, I don't care if he's Jewish, if he's not Jewish, Muslim, white, black, it doesn't matter. Your interaction needs to be elevated. You are a person who's bringing into this world elevation. And if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I posted 2 things, and I don't even know who the man is. The first one was everything that happened in Brooklyn, and right away I posted he's something to do with the Department of Justice, Terrell, and he says this needs to end, right? He's utilizing his power of speech to say this craziness has to end. And so do we. We need to be a constant, in tune, connected, that every word you said, every action you take is a spiritual endeavor. You're not just going to Christie's to pick up the avocados you forgot. You are on the way meeting someone for a reason. And even if it's a smile, walk down the street, walk with a smile, and see the people who come in the reaction. They know who we are. You don't need to hide. You need to stand louder. So the Torah says raise. So this is the idea of the census. The census was not just counting. It was raising the Jewish people. So to count a Jew means to lift them and to remind them who they are beneath the confusion of life. Take a minute, speak to your friend, see what their insecurities are, how exhausted they are, the traumas, the failure, what they're going through, even their environment. So Bamidbar tells us a person to raise their head and to remember that they are not only body reacting to life, very important, but you are a divine soul carrying a mission. And our bodies are an interesting place. Not always I feel like getting up in the morning and going to work in my school and teach or do whatever I have to do in my daily life. But then I have to remind myself, Modani lefanecha. Wow, you gave me my soul. I better get my act together. Let me go hit that gym so I could have energy to do what I came to do on planet Earth. So once a person reconnects to a deeper identity, the desert no longer destroys them, but it becomes the place where they discover strength they didn't even know they had. Meaning that even while the Jewish people traveled through the desert and the Mishkan always remained at the center of the camp, everything moved. The people traveled, the circumstance changed, the environment shifted, and the life remained unpredictable. But the center remained untouched, the same. And this actually becomes one of the deepest messages of this parsha, that a Jew may move through many deserts in life, but the center must remain stable. Everything might change, but our inner connection to Hashem needs to stay at the center. Our spiritual maturity does not mean living without challenges, right? We think We always say, oh, Hashem, yeah, right? Basta. That's it. Yeah. There were moments in my life I said to my husband, I don't understand. Sometimes they say that a person always will have a struggle. Okay, so we'll have a struggle in this area, in this area, in this area. So then I was standing in front of my husband. I'm like, check, yeah. But the reality is, it's not a challenge. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to go to a higher place. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to really become who you are meant to be. That is university degree, to say, I became. That's what it is. That's your challenges. Make you into who you are, right? Or like I was just sharing this week, that after my mom's passing, somebody said to me, Rachel, don't worry, in a little bit you're gonna be back to yourself. And I was shocked. I said, what? I am never gonna be the same person. This is life-changing. And so is every opportunity that comes your way, every challenge. It is supposed to be life-changing. Not because you're sad, but because it's supposed to make you grow to the next level that you've never even thought about it, that you didn't go through the experience. I would have never posted an Instagram story about my dad and asked 2,000 people to do a mitzvah if I didn't lose him, if I didn't have this close relationship with him, if I didn't miss him. So every yerida, every downfall is for an aliyah, is for a raise of yourself. So the larger mission of Bamidbar is that the Jewish people are being prepared to enter a difficult world without losing themselves inside of it. And that remains the Jewish mission today, to remain spiritually alive in a world that is filled with destruction, with pain, with hurt, to build homes of holiness inside a very ordinary physical life. Your home is your sanctuary. It's not just 325, it's 75. There's kedusha that could be permeated. When I'm learning and I'm doing my chavruta in the morning, I'm not affecting myself. Check, I did chavruta. I'm creating a ripple effect for the people who enter the house in and out. And so is the person on the other end of that phone, creating it for her family. And to remain connected to Hashem even when clarity disappears. So the desert is not the end of the story. The desert is the place where we discover whether Torah became part of us or whether it was only surrounding us. That's the desert. The desert is where you get real with life. It's where you're saying, am I really up to the mission that was sent to me? Am I willing to carry holiness beyond the inspiration that I felt when I read the Torah and the shir was amazing, and that's it. Now I'm going to go and call on my friend and scream at her. Or am I going to remain holy and understand that that person is in my life because there's a part of me that needs to grow? And I take a minute to just share that you never do business with friends because it's not a good thing. My parents always said, no, or relatives. My parents always said that. And I wanted to give an opportunity to somebody to do something. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way we planned. And there was a little rift a few weeks ago. And whatever, I was traveling, we talked for a little bit, but we put it to rest. And I made a phone call yesterday. And I said, look, you are more important to me than anything else. Forget anything else. Our relationship, wow, what can we do? And she had to run, I had to run. I said, this isn't the end of the conversation. It's going to be continued. So yes, were you hurt? Yeah, you were hurt. But you need to understand that that person was placed there. It's a test. It's a test. Are you going to live up to your expectations that Hashem has for you or not? It's just a test. Don't get sidetracked. I'm emotionally hurt me, blah, blah. All do. Go to your psychologist for that. But the question is, after all said and done, are you going to become God-like, yes or no? Are you going to resemble the path that Hashem has forged for you? So, can the Torah remain present not only in spiritual moments, but also inside our reality? Because the ultimate goal of Judaism was never to escape this world, but it was actually to transform the desert itself into a dwelling place for Hashem, time and time over again. I hope you girls enjoy the class.